Welcome to the Bamboo Ceiling Podcast. Today we got something excited for you guys. It's good, Apple and Duck back on the mic. Today we are taking you guys back on memory lane. To the early 90s Hmong American experience. It was a time when the first generation was getting assimilated to the culture. And it was also a time when there was new waves of Hmong people like Duck
Yes. Yeah.
was getting ingrained to this new culture and new society. So, what was special about the 90s?
Music. The music. If I could say anything about the 90s, it was a time when you still had a bunch of boy bands, right? If you're talking the American perspective, you had NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, and it was just the search for the new boy band. Um, for Hmong music, you had White Shadows, Paradise, KLS, and it was still pretty cool to listen to them, and no one was gonna make fun of you. You weren't looked at as a lover boy if you listened to love songs. It was accepted. I don't know about you, Apple. What do you think?
Yeah, I didn't listen to so much the Hmong songs, right? KLS I did,
All right.
but I think I would ask why do people make fun of KLS now? I feel like everyone listened to KLS, even I'm pretty on the more assimilated side, and I listen to KLS.
Even the gangsters listen to KLS.
Probably, yeah.
I don't think I was a KLS guy. I was definitely Paradise and White Shadow. So it was more the band and the music video.
The corny,
dude, the
cringy
music
ones?
videos.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The boy band moves,
Yeah,
you
right.
know.
Who sings I'm in Love?
Paradise.
Paradise.
Oh my gosh, that music video is terrible.
Cringy,
No,
yeah.
okay, I love you, Paradise, but that music video was like,
Shout out to
wow.
Paradise.
Yeah. Oh man, we're gonna get some hate.
No, so to Doug's point, so it was very hopeless romantic culture. Was that a thing, or was it just the music that we were listening to that played into that culture? Or because I know that the songs on the radio, like "My Heart Will Go On" or "Casey and JoJo All My Life," like those are '90s songs, but it was just an innocent time all around. Like you don't get those kind of music nowadays, but it was an innocent time all around where when you heard it, you didn't think about sex. Like you thought about
Love.
having a
Yeah.
lovey-dovey
Yeah,
relationship with,
right.
K drama before K drama, right?
I know, and I was thinking about this. Like, was it the culture that was that way, or was it because the listeners were all around the same age? Because we were all about that teenage, adolescence age, and but I think, as I'm thinking about it, I think culture kind of represented that because our culture had a big part in that because the industry, like Titanic, right? Titanic was the biggest selling movie until
Avatar, I think.
yeah, Avatar knocked it out. And how recently was that? It was like maybe
2008. I don't know.
yeah, pretty recent. Well, okay, that's not that recent,
Yeah.
but 8 years ago,
I think one of my most favorite memory as a teenager, and it wasn't awkward at all. Like me and my guys, we would go karaoke, and there'll be some drinking involved, but that's besides the point. It was just we all went karaoke. There was like 15 guys in this karaoke room, and we would just sing love songs, and that would be okay. Like and we weren't ashamed of living and embracing that culture, and it was kind of just it was okay to sing love songs, and there might have been a few girls there, but it was a bunch of guys, and that was okay.
Sausage fest.
It was okay, you know what I mean? Like we embraced it. There was no shame, but it was just like a moment where like we nobody took away our man card. We were proud to just be us, but we lived in a culture that we didn't know any better, or that we shouldn't be less of a man because we sang hopeless.
But the cool thing is, it's still okay for your group of friends to go do that
sure,
right now, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Everybody else probably
Yeah.
will think that we're,
Right.
kind of crazy, but to us, we think it's still okay.
Yeah, I think it's the culture because like if I'm thinking about today, like if I'm driving down the road, right, and I've got like a freaking love song playing or whatever, right, and I pull up to a red light, I turn down the volume, just because I don't want people. You know what
Turn
I'm
your
saying?
windows down.
Yeah, my windows down. I gotta turn down the volume. Like, yeah, I don't want them thinking I'm like a crazy,
Uh,
sad loner type dude.
Do you guys remember Asian Avenue back in the day? So it was like our Facebook eh, social slash dating site. I think that was one thing that you would go on the internet and it would be your go-to Facebook.
mm.
It was the main platform, right?
Yeah, and it was all commenting. It was just on Facebook or on Asian Avenue. It was just you had a guest page and you just basically spammed people's guest pages.
Right.
What did you guys put on your page? Like, how did you guys design it? Because you had to know how to
Yeah.
script or write.
Did,
What?
did you think that you were like some
IT dude?
Yeah,
Yeah.
IT professional because you knew how to like script a song onto your
Yeah,
Asian
yeah.
Avenue? Yeah.
What I want to know is what was your username?
Oh, dude, mine was Mo_R_us.
I had two. So mine was Monkid15.
I remember that one.
And then another one was Lost Boy
in
in
Minnesota.
Wow.
Shit. Lost Boy, Minnesota. I remember that. That's Sue loves that about you.
Okay, I didn't have a crazy one like that. I just had Apple.
But it went
yeah.
back to like a lot of the usernames were going back to our lovey-dovey, hopeless
Yeah.
romantic. Like you saw a lot of baby blue angel
Right.
girls
Mhm.
or pretty boy, Minnesota, whatever it was.
Boy with the eye though.
Yeah, there you
boy
go.
with the eye. Yeah.
There we go.
This was during like the AZM Pride, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you guys felt like it was, okay to like message a random girl at that time, or just to talk with, someone that you liked on that page? And
Yeah, I think like I wouldn't say the majority of the people, but most of the people were doing that. Like that was like a thing.
It wasn't awkward.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you didn't come off as like a creep.
Yeah.
It was actually encouraged, right? Like we actually used to up ourselves to see who had the most like comments on our guest book.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you would spam
Yeah.
people's guest books.
Right.
to make friends and to
Yeah.
get to
Yep.
know people, and
Yep.
you don't even know, and if they had their real picture on their page or whatnot.
Right? Yeah, I know.
I think one thing I noticed, as I'm thinking back about it, is we were less integrated with other racial groups. So because it was Asian Avenue, it was predominantly just Asian people in there, and I think there might have been a few white or black folks in there. But like I remember, with my black friends, they said they had Black Planet and whatnot. But I think during that time, it didn't create space to integrate with other racial, and maybe that's why we stuck close together, or maybe that's why we're close, tight knit, more as an Asian community, or there's the Asian pride, because we weren't associated or integrated with other culture. And I think that was a huge like uniqueness about that, because you know how like you look at Facebook now and MySpace into Facebook, like it was when everybody blended together,
All
like the culture.
races
you
use
know?
that. Yeah.
And I think that was unique. Not saying that was something that was of great value, but that was unique, that added a strong tie to like your Asian roots and culture.
Do
And
you
so,
do you guys think that the woke culture would call that racist in today's
for sure,
I've
because
got a page called Asian Avenue?
for sure, because everything ticks them off. I think everything that everybody is an expert nowadays, right? So if you think you're an expert and you could get someone on board with your expertise, right? That's considered woke. And so I do believe that it can trigger those that are like excluded, because I think nowadays we value inclusion, or we value diversity. Those are buzzwords,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So I think to that time it was special and it was innocent, and nobody thought twice that it was offensive that we were separated, or we were we're not associated with other racial groups. So Asian Avenue dating was a thing. What other things were unique about the 90's to early 2000?
Being able to go to like New Year's and whatever event you went to, and like not being afraid to go talk to people, or especially if as a dude, right? Not being afraid to go up to a girl and just talking to her and not being looked at as a creep.
Yeah, and like I knew a lot of dudes that, or more of the chicks that dated older dudes too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like and like kind of to Goo's point of like it being more innocent. I never thought like dude was a creep because during that time it was so like
Yeah. Now that you say it, yeah, I can remember like
right.
14-year-old girls dating like 18, 19-year-old dudes.
College
You know,
students.
college
Yeah,
kids. Yeah,
yeah,
'cause
yeah,
But
they
yeah.
would drive.
we wouldn't call them out or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It was normal, right? It was kind of normal at the time.
Yeah, and was I think now that I'm thinking back to it, like it was because it was more innocent. Like I didn't think, oh, dude's trying to just get into her pants or like,
Yeah.
and most of the time we got fireworks because of one of our cousins' boyfriend was in college.
Oh,
and,
I
you
see.
know,
They
it's
can
like,
buy that stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Or
Maybe-
alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol too. Yeah,
That
alcohol
was
too.
a big one. Like I think one thing that was special was the new waves of Hmong people that kept arriving, like the people like Duck. Because I was born here, I think Apple you were
Yeah,
too.
so was that.
So
yeah.
I was born here in like the 80s, and so we were assimilated fast to the culture, or we grew up more faster in that sense, or assimilated, where I wasn't considered a fob or a HTT. Like I think those are unique terms
Yes.
for that time. Like for our audience that don't know what that is, it's Hmong Tai Te and fresh off the boat. Like I felt like, so I went to school in Colorado, and I felt like there were new waves of Hmong people coming to Colorado from California, and these are more fresh off the boat.
Fabier.
But they shared stuff more with each other. They knew how to speak Hmong fluently, and they spoke Hmong a lot at school. And you kind of, for me, I felt embarrassed associating with them because I'm like, dude, these guys spoke Hmong all the time. And I had a few friends, but I just didn't want to associate with them because I felt embarrassed in that moment. And I also felt less than, like I wasn't good enough to be Hmong too. So I don't know if you guys
Did people
experienced
like
that.
Goo ever call you HCT?
No. Well, because that's a little bit exaggerating. Because like we came in '90 and I was only 4.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't, it wasn't like I came here as a teenager. Now I might have faced something different, but even as a kid, I could see like the difference. Like I knew we were different, and we had this after school program thing where the big buddies came, but they were the more Americanized Hmong kids that came, and I just remember like thinking to myself, man, these people are different. Like they spoke fluent English, they look different, they act different, and you could tell they were different.
Did you feel less than in a way?
Yeah, well, not less than as in like I'm not cool enough, but less than as in like we've got a ways to go to get caught up.
Gotcha.
Because like we grew up in the projects in Fresno, so seeing Hmong people in the projects apartment, that was normal. And when
Yeah.
you saw like a family of Hmong that actually owned a home, then you were just like, wow, these people are so high class, right?
Yeah. See, my struggle with that is I wasn't good enough to be fully Hmong.
Yeah.
So I felt less than you to be fully Hmong. But I wasn't Mikado too. Like I wasn't white.
You weren't good enough for either world, huh?
So there was a struggle on both ends. But on that end, it seemed like you were just, measuring up to like those Hmong folks that were more assimilated.
Yeah.
Or did you like measure yourself up to like the Mikau world too?
No, we didn't even know like that such a word existed, because the school I went to was like 90% Hmong.
Yeah. What about you, Abel?
Yeah, I always regretted it being mean because, okay, a part of it was that identity crisis. Like I felt threatened because they were more Hmong than
No
me.
excuses, Apple. No excuses.
He's a bully.
But then it was that we were all at that age too, and then it was. I think it was that like we were threatened, and then of course you wanted to be in the in crowd, so like you didn't really know why you were calling them out. But then everyone else was, so you did. And then I think the last thing is there was never anyone to ever like stand up for those kids too and say, hey, you know what? They're your people, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like there was not that guy, and so the awareness wasn't there, right? We just didn't have that awareness. So
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think was also special about the 90s that we don't have nowadays?
just to jump back on those the HCT thing, right? I did love like certain things about them, right? And so the thing that I loved was they knew how to be in community, right? And so just to kind of talk about that is they knew how to like value their family. And so like for me growing up, I kind of hung out with my friends. I started to hang out with my friends more, and so when I saw that they knew how to be in community, I was kind of envious of
Yeah.
that, right? And so, and the reason why I talk about that is because uh, my cousins that were freshly over, they're the ones that always went to the New Year's and July 4th together. And they're the ones that um, they went, and then my parents also went to the 4th of July and the New Year's, and then we hung out together there. And so one of the things I remember about the 90's the most is the New Year's and the 4th of July events and all the Hmong community events. I don't know. Were you guys here already when the Civic Center was still here?
I wasn't. I only
When
went.
when did they get rid of the Civic Center?
I don't know. I think it was like I want to say early 90's.
So they tore it down, right?
Yeah.
And
So
built the Excel.
yeah. Well, because the River Center is connected to the Excel Center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's where the River Center was.
Oh, I see.
And
Yeah.
that was the biggest Hmong New Year in
Yeah.
America, right?
Right.
Where-
That was the biggest Hmong New Year.
Yeah, no, I've never been to the Civic, but to the Excel Center for sure. I remember walking in, and it's just flooded with Hmong people. Like it's packed, vendors everywhere. You walk in and you smell the food, and there's like a freaking long line across the room of papa, and it was just so lively, and you enjoyed the pride that the Hmong people took in their culture, and you saw the pride in that. I think that was something that was special. And even J4, you saw all the umbrellas and whatnot when you walked in, and there was no shame, and it felt like.
Where were you coming from though? Were you already living here?
So
or?
I think when I first went, I was from Colorado, and then living up here, or Tracy, coming up from Tracy. So
See, so for me, I lived in Cali from 1990 to like 95, right? So I actually got to experience like the early 90's Fresno Hmong New Year.
okay,
So that was like a thing. I mean, if
Was
you
that
know-
outside?
Yeah.
outdoors,
Okay.
and like I mean
So
the
nice.
freaking food was like legit. Like I mean live, like fresh cooking, kind of like J4.
Yeah.
And so I mean, yeah, dude, like my experience was just how packed it was. Like you said, the vendors, and at the time in the 90's, like even as a kid, you saw how the dating life was like, right? Where even at the New Year's, like people pop more often. A creeper dude just standing next to a girl, which would be difficult to do nowadays.
Yeah.
But at the time, dude, you saw like 6 dudes, man, just talking to one chick.
no, but that's how I think. But that's what's unique. Like that's how we wanted to get married. Like
Right.
that's the
The
process.
only way, dude.
The only way to process to get married, right?
uh-huh.
Because I think we didn't have Facebook. Like we didn't have like a social media platform
Right.
to get to know all types of people. Like that was the only way to expose yourself to people and to actually marry, somebody. So it's supposed to not be awkward
Yeah.
and creepy because that was traditional. That was actually what happened in the old country, the motherland, because that's the only way they expose themselves to other people that they never knew in their own town. And so I think that was supposed to be the suggested ideal way to marry or even date. So
Yeah, like going to the community thing, right? Like even though not on the scale of like a New Year or J4, but I feel like that's also dying, that sense of community today. Like even back then, I think more people just gathered more back then. Like there weren't too many separations in terms of like groups. Now we have so many different groups. Everyone has their own picnic. Back then, it was just everybody kind of got together, and we were proud to be Hmong.
yeah. What did the gatherings look like?
Back then, it didn't matter if it was like what last names you were, whether you go to church or not. Like, so I grew up in a small town, but there was probably about like 20, 30 families, and not all of them went to church. But anytime the church threw like a picnic, everybody showed up, and there was just a lot of support and love. And I remember as a kid, like not wanting the day to end because all my friends were there, and you felt good. You felt like that for that one weekend, right, or that one Saturday, you felt like there was a sense of community.
Do you feel like, with that sense of community, that's still happening nowadays?
With age, I don't know because I'm not really around that kind of environment now. I just go to work, come home, and do my own thing, so I don't get to see it. But I'm sure there's something still around.
Yeah. I think the gatherings, what that looked like for me was, I think everybody valued that and everybody made that a
Priority,
priority
yeah.
back in the day where regardless if it was just a big feast, I guess we call it when gathering, there's always food, right? We made it a priority to stay the whole day. Like you go from like, sunrise all the way to like sunset,
Yeah.
Mm.
and there would just be a couple like volleyball nets and everybody would just hang around just to hang around because nobody had agenda but just to be in community and catch up and just to lay there with cái lay or what do you call those plastic
Yeah, lays, yeah.
yeah
The Asian lay.
What?
Asian
Mat,
Mat, yeah.
mat, yeah.
I was gonna say carpet whatever they are, but it was like, hey, like everybody valued that so much and didn't have agenda to go to the store afterwards or go and run and do their own life, and so
Yeah, I experienced the same thing, right? And like my biggest experience is probably New Year because our parents would just they would all go and our whole family, like including all these cousins, and then we would go to New Year's and they would say, hey, we're gonna be sitting in this section, and then kids, you guys go do whatever you want, right? And then I don't know what changed because at one point my parents and them stopped going, right? And then but they would still say, hey, you can go, we'll drop you off, right? So they'll drop me off. So I'm just trying to think to myself right now, like what changed? I don't know what changed where like the priorities changed or it seemed like the priorities changed.
do you feel like they assimilated to America and started understanding more of an individualistic society and began to have other priorities that took place of community gatherings or festival gatherings or event gatherings?
Yeah, you know what? I think that does play a lot into it. Like, because it happened so from like kindergarten to like about seventh grade, we were always together. And then all of a sudden, I just remember not so much anymore. And I think it was a matter of them getting accustomed to what that was. And I think it was the fact that they didn't have the fears that they did anymore, right? When they came to America, they came from this war-torn country, and so there was a lot of fear in that. And then also you're in this new place and you don't speak the language, and so you had to stick with your kind. And I think that does play a lot into it too. Like
Yeah, I think one thing I realized, like, how like nowadays the New Year's isn't as full and J4 isn't as full, like the umbrellas aren't covering the hills, right? At J4. And I'm just like, the sense of unity and community isn't as strong to the degree we've experienced it when the festivals was booming, is the greed. Like we've never been so prosperous as people, right? We grew up in the mountains. Capitalism is nothing in our in our definition in that, and understanding like there's now all these organizations trying to take over and separate all these festivals because they want greed. And I think that has played a role where like, man, like we don't have a sense of community or unity in a community anymore. And I think that has dissipated or allowed us not to like, I wouldn't say value, our gatherings as much, but it has made us like, not appreciate it, but also distance ourselves from people that host these things because now we're just kind of like, yeah, the motive is not there to get together. The motive, and to celebrate because it's considered celebration festival. The motive is how much money can I get with the restrictions that I apply to these vendors and everybody else that do come.
Yeah, I blame Hmong Village. No,
Nah.
no, because I mean, if you think about it, back then there weren't like places like Hmong Village or Como Town, right, where people could sell stuff. Like now, why go to J4 when I just go to Hmong Village to get
Every
food?
day.
Yeah, and things do change. I think with the times, you're gonna just start seeing numbers dwindle down. You
Yeah,
know?
I think because I think about why I don't go to 4th of July anymore. It's because I don't play sports anymore.
Yep. We're
And
not looking. We're married.
yeah,
We're not looking for girls.
True, and I can get that food wherever now. Yeah,
And I don't have to go to look for a fight because somebody's gonna record it, right? So I've always
Or live,
yeah,
Facebook
right.
Live.
You know,
No, I
Someone's
don't go
gonna live-
because there's no umbrella fights no
Yeah,
more.
right.
Like people gotta be using guns and
guns
stuff
now. I know. What happened
yeah.
to the good old days of like fist fights?
Yeah.
So it looks like there's a lot of factors that
Yeah.
play into us not being involved or
Right.
engaging in our community
Right.
gatherings. Like, what do you guys will miss most about the 90s or early 2000s? Like, what's one thing, if you're to pick one thing, what would that be?
Yeah, for me, it's that sense of community. You know, I don't know if it's age, the fact that I'm married now with kids that I just don't care. But growing up, that was one thing that I can always look back and be like, yeah, that was a good time. You know, when everybody was together, stuck together.
Yeah, I think for me it was a simpler time, right? I because I feel like we were the generation where we got to see the shift, right? Because like Hmong people coming in, and then they were like these didn't know the language, like Fabi, right? And then all of a sudden they're shifting to be more comfortable in this community. And then not only that, technology was crazy. Technology like moved so fast. We went from no cell phones, not really internet, no social media to social media now, right? Like we went from not really having that much technology to relying on technology only, right? And so just the idea of like having, and it might make me sound older, but having just a simpler life back then, yeah.
We went from getting catfish, you know, back then talking to
You were-
girls,
You were the cat.
and girls just sending you a picture, you know, not like before you even meet them, and just going, oh my god, not like the person on the phone.
I think I still hold to this. I think one thing kind of relating to Abel, is the time that it was just innocent, and maybe we were younger, and that plays a factor. Like, you're innocent, you don't know the whole world that there's, because there were like creepers out to get people,
Yeah.
right, or kidnappers, or rapists and all that. But it was an innocent time where the music was innocent, and we could vouch for that. Like, that really compared, like, there wasn't no twerking music,
Yeah.
right? It was a hopeless, romantic, lovey-dovey time. And deep down inside, I still feel like that's still part of me. And I don't think that will ever be taken out of me, or that will, that's always been a part of, because I grew up in that culture, or, that hopeless romantic. So there was a time of just innocence. And maybe we were younger and we just didn't know a lot of things and weren't aware of a lot of things. But we grew up in that, time where it was innocent, and it was okay to meet girls or sign their guest book and be weird,
Yeah.
be not put together and confident in how we articulated that we liked them, or, it was just a weird time, and that was okay. And so I think that's one thing I do miss, just a time where it was innocent, to be okay, to be you.
Cool. Yeah. What a good question, huh? What do you miss most about the 90s? So yeah, that sums up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and would love to hear from you guys about what you miss most about the 90s, if you did grow up in that time. And for the kids that missed out, yeah, man, that's too bad. That was a good time. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you guys, and what you guys think are some of your top 90s moments. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Later. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of The Bamboo Ceiling, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at #TheBambooCeiling. Until next time, use your voice.